want to talk today from the book of Isaiah and read in particular from Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 to 9. In the year that King Uzziah died, that's the year 736 BC, so we're right back in the 8th century BC. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord seated on a throne, high and exalted, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him were seraphs, each with 6 wings. With 2 wings they covered their faces, with 2 they covered their feet, and with 2 they were flying. And they were calling to one another, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. At the sound of their voices, the doorposts and the thresholds shook, and the temple was filled with smoke. Woe is me, I cried. I'm ruined. For I'm a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Then one of the seraphs flew to me with a live coal in his hand, which he'd taken with tongs from the altar. With it, he touched my mouth and said, See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin is atoned for. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send? And who will go for us? And I said, Here I am. Send me. And he said, Go and tell. I believe the Olympics and the Paralympics are like a prophetic sign to this city and to this nation. You know, we live in a pretty cynical city and a pretty cynical nation. There's a lot of bad stuff going on in this country and a lot of bad stuff going on around the world. And then in this last month, we've had this amazing, like an oasis of goodness and goodwill. I just love the fact, God blesses things. When nations come together, there God commands his blessing. When people are treated, regardless of who they are, regardless of their ability, are treated as human beings and loved and accepted, something very special happens. India Knight, writing in the Sunday Times, he says, Britain has found a smiley face. Don't let it slip away. She said, a nation that takes such pleasure in luxuriating in its misanthropy, its cynicism, suddenly it's transformed. London was transformed. Everyone was happy, proud of their fantastic cities, smiling, excitement. It was amazing. All of these things together, we don't want to be left out. A society that's supposed to be atomized, we're incredibly keen on community, kindness, good-heartedness, and goodwill. Multiculturalism and disability became good words without a single negative connotation. Everything is possible. Glory for those who were taking part and a glorious feeling of inclusiveness for those who were not. This amazing oasis in a cynical world. And the book of Isaiah is a bit like this. It's kind of a vision of hope, of an oasis in a cynical world. Isaiah looks around the nation of the time, which is not unlike the kind of world we live in. He looked around and he saw corruption, bribery, he saw trafficking, human trafficking. He saw wars going on. He saw divisions. He saw superstition. He summed it all up. He said, basically, the people have turned their backs on God. That on the one hand, but then he has this prophetic vision in which he sees hope. He sees streams in the desert. He sees the hope of new shoots of life, in particular one shoot. He sees a child being born who will be the Prince of Peace, who will be the everlasting Father. The government will be upon his shoulder. He sees a suffering servant arising who will atone for the sins of the people. He sees hope. He sees a prophetic vision within a society that as a whole is in a bad place. And I have a dream. I hesitate to say I have a dream rather than a vision, because I know in the Bible it says young men see visions, old men see dreams. So I don't dream a dream. I dream a dream about what could happen in our city, what could happen in our nation. Does it have to end now that the Olympics and the Paralympics are over? Couldn't not only it continue, but couldn't we have something that's even better? Because the kingdom of God should be better than even what we've seen in the last month. With the amazing things that we saw, the 75,000 volunteers. But couldn't this inspire us to something even greater? And that's my dream. My dream is that the church in this city, in this nation, should become something even greater. An oasis of hope in an island of cynicism. How could this happen? How could this be? What could happen? Well, it will happen through people, individuals. You, me, each person. You can make a difference. You may think, well, what difference can I make? I'm too small to make any difference. There's an African proverb which says, if you think that you're too small to make a difference, you've never spent a night with a mosquito. You can make a difference. You can make a difference for good. How? How can you be used by God? Well, let's look at Isaiah's testimony. Isaiah says, this is what happened to me. This is how I came to be used by God. Let me tell you about my experience. And what happened to Isaiah can happen to you. So here's the first thing. He got a glimpse of God. This is where dreams start. It's when we get a glimpse of God. And I want to encourage you today to get a glimpse of God and to get a big dream for your life. Dare to dream. Dare to live your dream. See, Isaiah, he says, I saw the Lord. My eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. And he describes in this language in Isaiah is language which is kind of foreign to us. But basically what it's describing is majesty, awe, holiness, glory, and power. He sees, in this vision of God, he sees just how powerful God is. Do you realize just how powerful God is? If you want to know how powerful God is, just look up at the sky at night. Look up at the stars. You know, the stars come out every night. If they only came out once in 10,000 years, when they came out, we'd all say, wow, there's a God. Look at those stars. Do you know how many there are out there? I don't. But I can tell you there are a lot. In our galaxy, there are estimated to be 100,000 million stars. Our galaxy is one of 100,000 million galaxies. There are countless trillions of stars out there. Do you know how big a trillion is? If we were to count in seconds, 1,000,000 seconds ago was 12 days ago. 1,000,000,000 seconds ago was 31 years ago. 1,000,000,000,000 seconds ago was 29,700 BC. And there are countless trillions of stars out there. And God made them all. That's how powerful He is. And when you realize how powerful He is, you realize that nothing is impossible with God. Jesus said, with God, all things are possible. That's why we have a big vision as a community. We have a vision to see this nation re-evangelized and our society transformed. That's a big vision because we have a big God and we caught a glimpse of that God. And that's why we've just got the latest official statistics for Alpha, which is for the year 2011. 2.3 million people around the world did Alpha. That's 29% up on the year before. Total of 18.5 million to the end of 2011. This is amazing. What God is doing through you. This is your vision. This is something we are all involved in together. And it's easy to sort of think, oh, 18.5 million, that sounds good. 18.5 million people. It's a lot of people. It's a big God. He's changing lives right across this world through you. This is incredible. This is amazing. This is a huge God. And he caught a vision of the power of God, what God could do. This is just the start. We have a vision. The vision is, there's a difference between a target and a vision. Our vision is to see the nation transformed. Our target is to see 100 million people in the next few years doing Alpha. It's possible because we have a huge God. He gets a vision of the greatness of God, but he also has a vision of the holiness of God. He says, holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. Holiness is the most beautiful, attractive quality. You know what holiness is? It's Jesus. It's Christ-likeness. And it's more important than anything else. You can't all be clever. Can't all be beautiful. Can't all be geniuses. But as someone said, one drop of holiness is worth an ocean of genius. And we can all be holy. We can all be like Jesus. And he catches a glimpse. He says, wow, wow, holy, holy, holy. This is like the banner of a revolution, the revolution. Jesus, Christ-likeness. And then he sees the love of God. Because this powerful, holy, majestic, awesome God says, Isaiah, I'm interested in you. I've got room in my heart for you. I love you. I'm calling you. This is the love of God. This is the love of a father for a child. That's why Mother Teresa says, don't worry about numbers. So just help one person at a time. And always start with the person next to you. Because that's God's attitude. He chooses the one. There's room in God's heart for you. He invites you to be part of, literally into the Godhead, into the Trinity. He says, I'm inviting you, I'm welcoming you, I love you. I was at the 6 o'clock service at Onslow Square last week. And I was involved in a conversation, a little group, which I couldn't kind of get off. Pips and I were talking to some other people, but I just saw, I shouldn't really have been looking over their shoulders, but I was. And I saw this young woman walk into the church, and she looked just like the sort of person we would really hope would come to church. She was just a very normal-looking young woman in her, I guess, sort of early 20s, and she walked in, and I thought, who's going to welcome her? Who's going to talk to her? And as she walked in, I could see there was no one talking to her. She was just looking very, very kind of awkward in a way because she was on her own. And I thought, someone's going to come and talk. And I thought, I must get Pippa to go and say hello to her. But I couldn't extract her from the conversation. So I watched, and then someone came and she just brushed past her. And as she brushed past, her face lit up. And then she moved on. And I saw her look a little disappointed. And then she felt quite awkward because she was obviously on her own in the church and she didn't quite know where to go. And eventually she saw they don't have chairs in Onslow Square, they just have cushions. So eventually she found a cushion and she kind of collapsed on the cushion and still looked around, hoping that someone would, I don't know what was going on in her mind. But eventually she took out her iPhone and started looking at it. And eventually I did manage to get Pippa to go over and say hello to her. And she said, I'm not religious. She said, I've come here 4 or 5 times. I'm hoping to start the Alpha course. And I thought, come on, church. We've got to do better than this. We've got to make people feel loved and welcomed because God welcomes and loves us. We are a friendly church. In a way, we're very friendly. At the start of the service, when I saw this at the start of the service, I said, look, stick up your hands if you're new here. And lots of hands went up around the church. And I said, go over and greet all the people who are new. No one moved. Why not? They hadn't heard me. They were all talking to their friends. That's great. But somehow we've got to make room in our hearts for new people. I'm shy. Basically, I find it really hard to go up to new people. And I'm always worried that they're not actually new. I'm worried I'll go up to them and say, is this your first time here? And they'll say, no, I've been coming for 20 years. And I'm on the staff. So I'm nervous of it. We're all nervous of going up and saying hello to people. But somehow we've got to do it. This is this is part of our DNA. This is why I'm talking to all of you. This is all of us. This is why we haven't got a marquee up this time. We're not saying go and sign up for this or that or the other. Because I want this is my dream. That it's in every one of your DNA. You come to church and you say, I'm coming to church to contribute. I'm not coming to consume. I'm not coming to rate the talk. How was the talk today? Oh, it wasn't very good. I love what Paul Scanlon says. He says, poor preaching is improved by good listening. So it's up to you how good the talk is today. It's up to your listening, because we're in this together. And I long for every single one of you to come to church to say, I'm coming here to contribute. I'm coming here to make a difference. I'm coming here to look out for the people who are... I have room in my heart for those who are coming into church for the first time. I know you've probably got your own register of friends is full, but can we make room for the new person, for the one? Can we be like God, who welcomes us into his presence, who says, every person who walks in here, it's kind of like, they feel like a stranger when they first walk in. And Jesus said this, he said this about the prisoners. He said it about the poor, but he said it also about the strangers. Every time you welcome them, you welcome me. Every time you welcome a new person who walks in here, or in Onslow Square, or in Queensgate, every time you welcome that person, you are welcoming Jesus. And that's the vision. That's my dream. That I don't want us to be a friendly church. I want us to be a church where people make friends. Where not they don't fill out some card, they don't have to fill out a card. It's great to fill out the card, but I want people to make connection. Not by email, but by personal connection. Come and join. Come to my pastorate. If you're not in a pastorate, join a pastorate. That's where you'll make friends. But to make this connection, to be welcomed in, to be this kind of community, not where it's relying on the staff to do it, or the welcome team, or the hosting team, but it's in all of us. It's in our DNA. This is who we are, because this is what God is like. God is powerful. God is holy. God is loving. God is welcoming. That's the vision. That's the dream. Second, to be used by God. One, get a glimpse of who God is. Second thing is, live in the grace zone. Verses 5 to 7. Isaiah says, when he sees God, he says, "Woe to me," I cried. "I am ruined. I'm a man of unclean lips, and I live among a people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." He just feels, coming into the presence of God, he feels, oh, I'm a sinner. I just look at myself and I think, oh, I'm not a good person. There's so much bad stuff. I think bad things. I say bad things. And he feels guilt. But God does not leave him there. Look what happens. One of the seraphs flew with a live coal in his hands. And with it he touched my mouth and said, "See, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away. Your sin is atoned for." This is the gospel. See, Isaiah, if you take the book of Isaiah, it's got three movements in it. 1 to 39 is judgment. 40 to 55 is hope. Chapter 60 to 66, 55 to 65 is, 40 to 55 is comfort. 56 to 66 is hope. But each of those themes run throughout the Bible. So judgment because there's bad stuff going on, because there's guilt. But then there's comfort and there's hope, because Isaiah foresees a suffering servant who will arise, who will atone for our sins. Unto us a child is born. This is the one who will be the suffering servant. This is the one who will die for you and for me, to take away your guilt. That's why you do not need to go around feeling guilty. You do not need to go around feeling there's a cloud between you and God. Jesus has removed it on the cross. You are forgiven, you are cleansed, your sin is atoned for. That's grace. And when we've received grace, we then become the community of grace. When you know that you've been forgiven, you can never hold a grudge against anybody else. C.S. Lewis said, to be a Christian is to forgive the inexcusable, because God has forgiven the inexcusable in you. That's what it means to be a Christian. And that's why this is my dream. This is my hope, that we will be a community of grace, where when people walk in here, or at Onslow Square or Queensgate, they do not feel judged, but they feel accepted. They feel loved. They feel welcomed home. It's what we want people to walk in here and say, wow, this is coming home. I love what Bobby Houston said at Focus this year. She said, in their church in Sydney, they have a big sign outside the church that says, "Welcome home." Because the church is not an organization we join. It's a family where we belong. And we are brothers and sisters, and this is our home. This is the family home. That's why we're painting the ceiling and having a new carpet because it's disgusting. And you wouldn't have a carpet like that in your home. But it's not just about the physical building. It's much more important about that. It's about the love that you receive, the experience that you have, the welcome that you receive when you walk in, the sense that you have that this is home. And we can't do it without everybody involved. This is my dream. All of us are involved. All of us think of this as our family. All of us think of this as our home. And all of us are saying to everyone out there, we'll have probably 5,000 new people coming in between now and Christmas. Typically we would at this time of year. How many of those people are going to find a home here? How many people are going to walk in and say, yeah, I'm coming home. People talk to me. People love me. People introduce me to their friends. People welcome me into their own homes. They were hospitable to me. I made friends here. And I wasn't judged. I felt like I was entering a zone of grace where I was accepted, loved, and welcomed home. Third, if you want to be used by God, first thing is get a glimpse of God. Secondly, live in the grace zone. Thirdly, make yourself available. God uses people who make themselves available. And that's what Isaiah did. Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send and who will go for us? And I said, here I am. Send me. And he said, go and tell. At the end of this time, we're going to sing, or Shay is going to sing for us the song that was sung at the closing ceremony of the Olympics. Most amazing, beautiful song. But it's all about going and tell. You've got the words to change a nation, sung Emily Sandy. You've got the words. Go and tell. And Isaiah went out and he told. But before he did that, he made himself available. He said, here I am. Send me. This is my dream. That we will be a community of people who say to the Lord, here I am. Send me. I'm available for you. He didn't make any excuses. He didn't say, I'm too old. I'm too young. I'm too busy. I'm too bad. I'm not needed. There are other people who are better than me. Surely the staff will do it. He said, here am I. Send me. He didn't put any conditions. If you want God to use you, don't tell him how. Just let him use you however he wants to use you. Say, Lord, I'm available. I'll do whatever you want me to do. In my experience, people who've achieved amazing things in their lives have all started small. Because God looks for people who are faithful in the little things before he gives them big things. And God looks at us, are you willing to just come to one service and serve in another? Are you willing to be faithful with your money? If you don't give when you're poor, you'll never give when you're rich. Because he looks to the little things. What do you do when you've only got a little money? What do you do with that? What do you do when you've only got a little time? We can all do the little things. We can all welcome one person. We can all say hello to one person. And Isaiah doesn't say, I'll only do something if it's really big and glamorous. He says, I'll do anything. Whatever you want me to do, Lord, I'll do it. I'm available. He says, I don't want to be a consumer. I want to be a contributor. I want to make a difference to this world. Use me. Use me, Lord. That's what I love to encourage each one of us. This is my dream, that we would be a community that gets a glimpse of God. We'd be a community that is a kind of grace zone that people walk into and feel welcome home. That we be a community where every single person who's part of the community says, here am I, Lord. I want to pray. I want to serve. I want to give. I want to be involved. Not through some system, but because it's in my DNA. This is what it means to be part of the family of God. This is what it means to be part of this community of grace and love. I'm available. David Walker told this story, and I asked his permission to tell it. And it's about a guy, a squaddy, a private in the British Army, a Fijian, his name is Derek. And Derek was out in Afghanistan, and he was in a Land Rover, and there was a 44-gallon oil drum filled with bolts and nuts and razor blades and nails, and it exploded under his Land Rover. And both his legs were blown off, and it was just left with flesh and the stumps, losing a huge amount of blood. And he was thought to have died. In fact, he was put into a body bag. But just before he passed out, he prayed. And what he prayed, basically he said to God, I'm available. Lord, he said, equivalent of Isaiah, here I am. He said, if you have a role for me in the future to be an inspiration for others, let me live. And he made himself available. He thanked God for his life. And although he was put in a body bag, somebody unzipped the body bag, and they saw that there was a slight pulse. And they took him to the hospital, and 9 days later, he recovered consciousness. And his wife took a picture of him, and that's how he discovered actually how terrible his injuries were. A year later, in 2008, he was in a rehabilitation center, and he watched the Paralympics in Beijing. And he said, I'd like to do that. And he started to train to be a discus thrower. And just last week, there he was, hurling the discus in the, I think it was in the F-57 class. 2 artificial legs decorated with the Union Jack. And he had a special frame made for throwing. He's in incredible pain, but he's able to, with this frame, he's able to hurl his body. And although he's won medals in other games, he didn't win a medal this week. But this is what he said. I love this, because this is what I say. I think the Olympic Games, the Paralympics, are like a prophetic sign. They're an inspiration. These people, I just find them so inspiring. This is what he said. He said, I'm determined to inspire others. I want to put a smile on someone's face, especially anyone who's lost a limb and thinks that they can't do anything. If you think what he can do, what could we do? To inspire someone like that would be more rewarding to me than £1 million. I don't regret losing my legs because I did it serving this country and doing something I love. I'm so excited, and I'm so thankful I'm alive, and I'm so honored to represent my country on the front line. Isn't that what we all want to say to God? Lord, I'm available. I'm honored to represent you on the front line. I'm willing to do anything to go out and be an inspiration to others and make a difference for Jesus in this world. Amen.